So all I see when I walk in is just a whole bunch of blankets just covering up my daughter. And I start walking closer and I can see the top of the intubation tube because she was intubated on what's called on the freeway. I can see the top of that. And as I'm walking closer, I can start seeing the top of her head and I can see a scratch right here. Her eyes are closed and she has on the hospital gown. And my wife, she falls out right there on the floor. And I walk up to her and I can see that her leg is, they have like this weird thing on it holding her leg because she broke her femur. So they have her leg right there, and she just looked like she was sleeping. Her face was swollen, and I grab onto her hand to hold her, and the doctors are like, so they start explaining everything. She has 3 concussions, broken femur. She has I forget the name of it, what it's called, but basically the left side of her skull was pressed in, so she had like a compression fracture, I think it was, and it was pushed in pretty far. So they're like, we're gonna have to get her into surgery so we can, fix the fracture. It was called a craniotomy. So they're asking us about that, and they're asking us, what was going on, where she was going, and I mean, just irrelevant questions, that had nothing to do with the current state. So we sit there, we talk to the doctor. The doctor explains that she's in a coma, and then he gives us this, I forget the name of the scale thing. He's like, we operate at this number, and right now she's over here, so she's not in a induced coma, she's in a coma. So they got her on all these meds and everything like that. So they end up taking her from that room. She stays in there for like maybe like 3-4 hours. They end up taking her from there, and then they transport her to the other side, ICU, peds ICU. And that's when we start, things start getting a little bit more serious. They start explaining it to us that she may not make it, that her brain is starting to swell. And this was after they did the craniotomy. They're telling us that her brain's starting to swell, that she may not make it. And it was, just the way that they operated was so inefficient. They came to find us to let us know that they needed to do a brain surgery that was life or death instead of just doing the brain surgery or the head surgery, which was called a craniectomy. So they had to remove an entire portion of her skull. It was a good, like, about that size, about that big of her skull that got removed. And I would like to sit there and blame a lot of what's going on right now with her has to do with the delay and what they could have done and the time frame that it could have been done in, and instead they chose to sit there and get our permission first to do it, which I understand, liability and things like that, which is kind of stupid when it comes to life and death. I think these are things that doctors should weigh in and just take control and just, this is going to save their life. If we don't do it, the patient's going to die, and instead they want to sit there and look for us. And then we got to wait till the stupid screen populates so that we can sign it and it gets sent in and reviewed. And it is, to me, it was just all a waste of time. So I've talked with some other doctors and they're like, yeah, well, if you guys do it this way, she could be talking, there's no telling where she could be at, because it could very well be the exact same thing. It could have plateaued as far as the worst that it was going to get right from the beginning. We have no clue of that. It says, but it could have also been the opposite. So there's no way of knowing. I just know that they took a long time. That was a good like 15, 20 minutes extra of her brain being swollen. That's stopping or that's causing cranial pressure on her brain that didn't have to be there. So there's things that didn't get done the correct way, in our opinion, as far as that goes. But they ended up doing the craniectomy. Her ICP numbers, they stay high for the better part of an entire day, maybe day and a half, if I'm not mistaken. They finally get her in to put the internal brace in her leg, and we're sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. Then, maybe by like the third day, her numbers start subsiding. The swelling, you can see the swelling coming down, like you can visibly see it coming down. And they're telling us, okay, we're gonna let her ride this out for another day or two, see how she responds. And things were going smooth. And something happened where she started neurostorming. Her heart rate was like at 180, 190 beats per minute. which is like extremely fast. You're talking like 2 to 3 beats a second that her heart was doing. And her blood pressure was really, really high. So they're sitting there telling us again, I think this was like the second time that they're telling us that, that she could have a heart attack. She could end up passing away. So they start giving her these different meds to try to bring her numbers down. ICP levels start coming back up again. It was just a roller coaster of events, to be honest with you. So to sit there and see, your 5-year-old girl, um, again, my first daughter, go through that is just like there's no words for it. There's no scenario for it. There's nothing. I mean, just even describing it again is just surreal. And the crazy thing is now I sit there and I see her sleeping, and we're coming up on 2 years, coming up in June, and sitting there seeing her sleeping. When she wakes up, you almost think she's just gonna wake up and just be like, "Good morning, Dad." Like it. Even though we've experienced all this, and we've been going through this, over 400, 500 days, it's still you still have that little bit of hope that she's gonna wake up and talk. And then she goes back into her nonverbal, or you start realizing that she's nonverbal rather, and your whole world crashes again. So you're literally living a nightmare.